Bon après-midi à tous et bienvenue à cette rencontre du comité de dérogation pour le bien d'emploi. Nous avons un écho. All right, can we fix the echo? I'm just going to give it a second. All right, do you think it's going to balance out? All righty, we're going to move on. So, and it looks so dark back there. I mean, I was saying, like, so I turn off the lights or what's going on in the room? But anyhow, hopefully you can see us fine. All right, so good afternoon and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment hearing for Panel 1, the urban area. We are a City of Ottawa quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to consider Planning Act applications, including minor variances and consents to sever land. All right, I'm going to keep going. Our hearings are back to being in person. However, the committee can enable remote participation as we have today. And did you want me to maybe try turning off my audio? Are we oh, okay, perfect. Okay, excellent. I don't know what magic just happened, but thank you. Okay, so as I was saying, it was, we do allow, obviously, remote participation. And so if anybody's ever interested in the future, so you know, you just need to contact committee staff. You are being live streamed on YouTube, and the video, along with the agenda, are archived and available for future viewing by the public on the committee's website. My name is Anne Tremblay, and I will be chairing today's hearing. And with me today are my fellow panel members, so starting with Member Lecaillé, Member Haskin, Member Keklikan, and online we have Member Blatherwick. So in terms of the procedures, the hearing will unfold as follows. So you saw an agenda possibly at the beginning that was on the screen. Well, the chair has the discretion to change that up a little bit, and we will. So we have introduced since this term a unopposed application process. So where we can, we try and fast track some applications, and we'll be doing that today in part. So with that too, just know that the panel members do have a chance to review all of the materials before we get here. And then on top of that, we have a pre-meeting before we come into this, the chambers here, in order to ensure that we have all the last minute information so that we're up to date. So it may seem like we're making decisions really quickly, especially on those unopposed, but the reality is we're very well-versed on what's happening on those applications and comfortable with proceeding with them. All right. So we're going to hear oral submissions from folks today. That's probably the most important part to these hearings. In addition to hearing from the applicant and the agents, is also to hear from anybody who has an interest in the application, whether you're for it or you're against it. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant is required to post a sign on the property and before the hearing. And if that doesn't happen, then we either have to do a verbal affirmation or oath. And if we can't have either, then what happens is we have to postpone the item to another hearing. All right. So in terms of how we might proceed. So I talked about the unopposed. Those are very quick. Don't need the agents to come down to speak. None of that. Where we do hear the applications, we may ask for a presentation if they are not on the unopposed list. Or we might just go straight to questions, and it depends on the type of application. So what the panel does after that is get clarification where we need it. So an opportunity to talk to city staff. So whether it's with forestry or with planning or with any other technical representative that we may need to answer or to clarify a particular issue. After that, we tend to go to the public portion where we hear from anyone who has an interest. We may ask those parties some questions. So don't run away, or because we may want to ask you something. Then after all that's done, we allow the applicant or agent to recap and to maybe even rebut the information that's been presented. And after that, the committee can move to a decision. So in some cases, we can grant the application, obviously. We can deny the application. And if there's a lot of new evidence to consider, then we can reserve on the application, which means that we then close the overall hearing and then we re-meet today before we leave to further deliberate on an item and then make a decision. In all of the cases, those cases, and within 10 days, the committee will send an official written decision and reasons for it to all parties, participants, and anyone who has requested a copy of the decision. So I'm going to go to some matters of business, declarations of conflict of interest. Anyone have? All right. And it's not, just so you know, members are asked to provide declarations of conflict of interest, not only on our agenda or the agendas of either of the other two panels, panel 2 and panel 3. So I think I saw somebody's hand up. So Member Keklikan, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I am declaring a potential conflict anyway. For item number 7, the property in question is in my neighborhood. In fact, it's a couple of blocks away from my residence. I walk by it frequently, so I don't want my familiarity with the property to lead to any perception of conflict or bias, so I'll recuse myself.
Thank you, Member Keklikan, and I don't think anybody else had anything, so that concludes that portion of our business. We do have one set of minutes for September 3rd, so just any last words on that? Otherwise, we're going to deem them to be adopted. All right, so the minutes of September 3rd are herein adopted. Typically, we then go to either withdrawals or adjournments. We have none of those today. Very rare, but we have no adjournments whatsoever. So we're going to go straight to the order of the applications. I'm going to start with the unopposed. So the unopposed are the following. And like I said, I don't need the agents to come in and come down and talk to us at all. So application number 2, as you can see, to 2496 Clover, number 4, which is 1077 Richard, and also number 6, 255 Saint Denis. So I'm just going to do one call out to anyone who's either in the audience here today or online. Does anybody want to speak to any of those applications? Can I have the gallery view back, please? All right, I'm not seeing, though, anybody come forward, even online. All right. Oh, sorry, come on down. So I'm going to need your name and your municipal address, if you could, please. And then tell us which application you are speaking to.
My name is Diane Burgess, Burgess, and my address is 1065 Richard Avenue.
All right. And okay, I think what we'll do is we'll step this down then, Ms. Burgess. What we'll do is we'll hear the application, we'll get the agent involved.
Okay.
So if you want to retake your seat, we'll come back to you in just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, anybody else on the 2 remaining then? So all we have on the unopposed officially at this point is number 2 and number 6. And I'm not seeing anybody, so members of the committee, I think we can vote at this point. All in favor? All right. For the record, those 2 applications are unanimously granted. Okay, so with that then, we are going to go back to, how about we do number 3 first, and then we'll go to number 4. All right, let's do that. So we need, let's see, Yar Mohammed, Agent Yar Mohammed. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, panel. My name is Yasaman Bahadouri.
Sorry, your name for?
Yasaman Bahadouri.
Okay.
Do we have? Mohammed couldn't be here, so we are presenting the application on behalf of.
All right, just a moment, because we need to get this on the record. So I just want to make sure that we do have, okay, so we do have your name on number 3. Thank you. And with you today is?
With me today is Amrinder Kaur. And we will be presenting this application on behalf of the property owner.
All right, so you're also on the list. Okay, just want to make sure we have that because we've got to make sure we get the spelling and everything right. So, okay, so there's no presentation required. We just had one question of clarification. I believe it was member Blatherwick.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for Ms. Horn. I believe she's the agent or the planner involved with this application. I'm looking at item number 4, which is 1077 Richard. And for that application, Ms. Horn, there was a requirement for a site servicing study. And this is an application for two long semis on a lot, exactly similar to this application, which is 2 long semis on a lot. And I'm just wondering why there's no requirement for a site servicing study for this particular application.
Thank you for your question. Our engineering reviewers did not flag the need for a site servicing study at Frank Bender. The reason for the site servicing study at 1077 Richard is essentially the water main on the street is quite a bit smaller than the water main on Frank Bender, and so Frank Bender does not require the site serviceability study.
And in both instances, the engineers for the city have determined that there's adequate reserve capacity in the wastewater system.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Horn. Thank you, Madam Chair. That was my question.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from members? No, not seeing any, then we're going to open it up to anyone in the audience, either online or in person here today. Anybody want to speak to the committee on this application? Okay, not seeing anybody come forward. So then Ms. Baddouri, the floor is yours to provide a recap if you want, or provide any comments.
So the proposal represents appropriate and compatible infill that makes efficient use of existing services, contribute to housing choices, and aligns with city policies for evolving neighborhoods. The design respects zoning requirements, infrastructure, and community context. The applicant has agreed to the city's conditions, and we have no concerns with the conditions and requested by planning staff. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. In that case, members of the committee, all those in favor? All right, for the record, your application is unanimously granted. Thank you for
Thank
your
you so
time
much.
today.
Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to number 4 for 1077 Richard, looking for Agent Jude. And do we have Mr. Jude on the line?
Yes, Madam Chair, he is online.
All right, thank you. All right. Mr. Jude, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello?
We're not seeing the agent or hearing the agent at this point.
If the agent can turn on his camera.
Mr.
should be
Jude?
unmuted.
Yeah, can you turn on your, oh, no, no. All right, Mr. Jude?
Yes, hello?
Okay, so, sorry. I think what we'll do is we'll just step it down then and we'll go on to another application at this point. So with that then,
Madam Chair, could we just pause for 1 second? I'm wondering if Mr. Blatherwick could just speak again.
Hi, hello? Hi, I'm here.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
okay, well, in that case, I think we will go on to another application at this point. And I think, so we'll have to remind me somebody to come back to number 4. So let's do number 1 then. Deschamps, 147 Deschamps, looking for Agent Lancet. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, and you are,
My name is Sylvie Lalancette. I'm the representative for the corporation known as 100009018 Ontario Inc.
all right, so today we're going to ask you for a presentation. Have you submitted a PowerPoint?
We did.
Floor is yours whenever it's ready.
There we go. Okay. I'll indicate next slide too. Okay. So this application relates to the property at 147 Deschamps Avenue, which was originally built in 1949 as a purpose-built 8-unit multi-residential building. The original configuration of the building provided for 7 two-bedroom units and 1 one-bedroom unit. The objective of the project is to preserve and modernize this 76-year-old existing structure within a mature Vanier neighborhood that's being revitalized, rather than completing a full redevelopment with a new building. In many respects, that it will limit any flexibility in design because of the existing structure. The purpose of the renovation completed at 147 Deschamps Avenue was originally to improve the quality and density of rental accommodations within the area, converting the 7 two-bedroom units and 1 one-bedroom unit to 8 fully renovated 3-bedroom units. Current federal, provincial, and City of Ottawa affordability policies and recent changes to CMHC financing requirements have led us to modify the renovation plan to increase the number of units from 8 to 10, with a mix of 6 3-bedroom units and 4 one-bedroom units. The original building permit was submitted with the 8-unit plan to bring the existing building envelope to today's standards. As the housing situation, of course, has changed over the last little while, the scope of this project is being altered. Next slide. This application seeks to achieve 3 distinct objectives. First, we are looking to replace the front entrance canopy with a permanent structurally engineered covered porch, providing needed security lighting and monitored access to the building, shelter from the elements, and secure mail and package delivery receptacles. Then we are looking to confirm the existing building is legally non-conforming with the current zoning bylaw in order to enclose the existing rear projections of the building to increase livable square footage and occupancy within the building, while removing opportunity for disruption and invasion of privacy for the rear neighbors of the community, of the building. And finally, we are looking to maximize the functionality, efficiency, and affordability of the existing 8-unit building by increasing the number of units available to 10, including 4 affordable units, while providing additional amenities to the residents. The current minor variance application is intended to obtain approval for a minor front yard setback variance to allow for an adequate covered porch with increased amenities, address the non-conforming rear yard setback and minimum required rear yard area, and obtain a minor variance to the current R4UA performance requirements with respect to the maximum number of units within the building, an issue that's being addressed in the proposed new zoning bylaw under the new N4 zone designation. This application does not challenge the general intent of the zoning bylaw or the official plan, but seeks to remedy conformity issues while increasing density, functionality, and affordability within the building. Next slide. The following variances are required. First, a minor variance is requested to permit a reduced front yard projection setback from 1 meter to 0 meters from the lot line to allow for the permanent structurally engineered covered entrance. The projection from the front of the building to the edge of the property line for a total of 1.8 meters. The current zoning bylaw requires a setback of 2 meters or a minimum of 1 meter from the lot line, which would render any porch, entrance, or covering impossible. This picture gives you an indication of the location of the property line, which is directly at the end of the concrete step and approximately 1 meter away from the existing sidewalk. As you'll see in the next slide, the proposed covered front entrance would replace the previous small canopy and would not compete with neighborhood characteristics established well before the zoning bylaw was instituted by the City of Ottawa. Next slide.
Go ahead, please finish your presentation.
Sorry. In this slide, you'll see the proposed projection would include a full flat roof, approximately 4.2 square meters, 2 posts to the west of the entrance and a full wall to the east of the entrance, all installed over the new concrete front slab and proper step. A short sidewalk would still exist between the front step and the edge of the sidewalk, the city sidewalk, leaving approximately 1 meter distance from the city sidewalk. The proposed projection would render the entrance of the building more functional, appealing, and secure for residents and visitors while providing electronic building access, mail and package receptacles for the tenants, and shelter from the elements. Variance A addresses a pre-existing condition, which can be evidenced in the picture to the left, whereby the entrance covering was very limited and any amenities had to be placed inside the building. The existing building footprint does not meet the 2 meter requirement itself. We're proposing an exterior facade rehabilitation as seen on the right, with a view to increase security and access. The southern facing protrusion will aesthetically be more appealing and allow for improved and secure access to mail and packages and provide shelter from the elements. Next slide. The proposed projection was designed to provide a proper entrance to the building without encroaching on City of Ottawa easements, while adding a bit of privacy to the lower level units when tenants and visitors access the building. Next slide. Variants B and D are now being sought to recognize the existing building footprint as legally non-conforming with the current zoning bylaw and recognize the reduced rear yard setback and rear yard area for this building. I'm sorry if it's buzzing. It's buzzing in my ears too. Therefore, a minor variance is requested to permit a reduced rear yard setback of 10.33% of the lot depth or 2.79 meters. This is a conservative request because effectively the enclosures that we are looking to secure are at 4.34 meters of the rear building lot line. Whereas the bylaw states that the minimum required rear yard setback is 30% of the lot depth, as per table 144A, or in this case, 8.1 meters. A second minor variance is also requested to permit a reduced rear yard area of 12.35% of the lot area, or 50 square meters, rather than what the bylaw states, where the minimum required rear yard area is 25% of the lot area, or in this case, 101 square meters. The existing rear yard setback of 2.79 meters and rear yard area of 50 square meters were established in 1949. At the time of the building was built. Formalizing the non-conforming nature of the existing structure would permit the permanent enclosure of the rear covered decks to increase square footage within the 6 upper units. The objective is to increase density and occupancy within 6 units while reducing, disruptions and invasion of privacy for the rear neighbors. Next slide. These are the pictures, so we'll provide. On the left side of the slide, you'll see that the state of the structures at 143 and 147 Deschamps when we took possession of the buildings. Both buildings are built to the same depth on their respective properties. The rear projections at 143 Deschamps were permitted to be enclosed in the 70s or 90s before the current zoning bylaw was instituted. You can see to the right of the slide a picture of the new exterior covering for the enclosed projections at 143. So the bottom right picture. In order to apply for the same permitted enclosures at 147 Deschamps, the non-conforming rear yard setback and rear yard area must be recognized and accepted, hence the request for these minor variances. While we'd love to increase the rear yard, it's very difficult to reverse time or the existing structure. Next slide. The final variance that we're requesting today is variance C. It relates directly to the current R4UA performance requirement, which calls for multifamily residential buildings to contain a maximum of 8 units in this particular subzone. A minor variance is requested to increase the number of residential units permitted in this building from 8 to 10 units, to allow the building density to be increased to meet the needs of the community and CMHC, while also meeting City of Ottawa goals to increase the number of affordable units. Given that neighboring properties are governed by a slightly different zoning, so R4UD, which does not restrict the number of units, and current City of Ottawa objectives through the upcoming zoning bylaw seek increased density and affordability in rental units, this application requests a minor variance to allow for densification by increasing the unit count to 10, akin to neighboring properties. 6 upper-level 3-bedroom units will be maintained, and 4 affordable 1-bedroom units would now be provided within the lower level of the building. Next slide. The drawing that you see here represents the existing footprint of the lower level of the building, which includes 2 3-bedroom units representing close to 93 square meters each. So close to 1,000 square feet. Next slide. The proposed lower unit footprint that we are putting forward would therefore include 4 1-bedroom units, each offering 46 square meters of living space. These bright and spacious 1-bedroom units will offer similar amenities to the upper 3-bedroom units, including in-suite laundry, refrigerator, of course, dishwasher, etc., while providing a community with what is now a will be a fully renovated, appealing, and affordable housing option as qualified by CMHC guidelines. The proposed modification to the interior layout of the lower level will have no impact on the footprint of the building, nor its access points. Instead, it will fill the need for affordable 1-bedroom units in an economically viable way by maximizing the existing footprint of the building. Next slide. Before submitting this application, we have paid particular attention to neighborhood characteristics and properties within proximity of 147 Deschamps. Existing properties along Deschamps Avenue mostly stem from the 1940s and 50s. At the time, the city of Vanier did not have setback requirements that were restrictive. As you can see in these photos, Through ongoing development, many different access points were designed at different properties, whether it's staircases, sidewalks, retaining walls, raised porches, etc. Many properties have concrete walls abutting the sidewalk. Others have front doors or front steps that encroach on city property. To avoid encroachment and seasonal issues, we are proposing to maintain any projection or enclosure within the property line and at least 1 meter away from city sidewalks. I understand that you will have received copies of the survey for the property and the site plan with the relevant setbacks and projections identified. These copies, of course, are very small to examine. However, you can recognize that the 76-year-old building was built at a time of different standards and zoning requirements. Next slide. In preparing this application, we were very diligent in assessing all of these proposals against the 4 tests required. The variances are minor, as limited setback reductions are requested to formalize the existing structure setbacks and allow for practical use of the property while remaining consistent with neighborhood characteristics. The variances are desirable for the appropriate development or use of the property, as the proposal seeks to increase density while maintaining the existing footprint and building structure established prior to the current City of Ottawa zoning bylaw, and proposes reasonable projections similar to neighboring properties. The general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw is maintained, as the proposed enclosed projections and the new covered porch are preserving existing setbacks prior to the January 2021 implementation of the zoning bylaw. This proposal also looks to preserve adequate setbacks from neighbors and the city sidewalk. Further, the request for removing the cap on the number of units is intended to meet community needs, CMHC requirements, and the City of Ottawa's objectives to increase density and affordability of units. And finally, the general intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained, as the changes promote higher density in the building at 147 Dacia and do not request any material changes to the zoning bylaw or official plan. The increase in density is already being contemplated in the new zoning bylaw that should be adopted in 2026. Next slide. As for for any application, we've taken many steps to get to this point. Of course, as indicated just now, we've diligently considered the 4 tests. We've consulted city staff, stakeholders, and neighboring property owners who mostly have no objections. We've reviewed neighborhood characteristics to remain consistent, and we have prepared our building permit amendment application to implement these changes. Of course, the application will be submitted following the Committee of Adjustments consideration of these minor variances. Thank you for considering our application. We respectfully request that you approve the 4 minor variances as proposed, given that city staff and other stakeholders have reviewed and have no objections. Most neighbors are supportive. Significant efforts have been taken to improve use, aesthetics, density, and affordability of the building while limiting disruptions for neighboring residents and maintaining neighborhood characteristics. And the proposals have been proven to meet the 4 tests. Thank you for your consideration.
Merci, Madame la Lancette. Very good presentation. Thank you so much for putting in that effort. Very comprehensive. I think we have a very good idea of what's going on. With that, then I'm just going to open it up to our members to see if anybody. So yes, we have a question from Member Nkegi.
Yeah, thank you. Two questions. The first being, you mentioned about you're switching to 3 bedrooms from, I think you've got right now 2 bedrooms. Is that based, maybe I missed it in your application. Can you just tell me a little bit about how that decision was made of the change up in the bedroom count? And is that based on evidence, data, that kind of thing?
So our current building permit application instituted that change, primarily because at the time that we first purchased the building, there was a very large shortage of three-bedroom unit availability. And so for that reason, because of the large scale of these units, obviously they were built in the 50s, space was a lot more abundant. And in that context, there was an opportunity to maximize the space available and actually create a larger accommodation for tenants.
Perfect. And then, so my second question is what's happening to the existing tenants? Is this like a full reno where all the existing tenants have to move out?
So we purchased the building vacant. It's been vacant
Okay.
since I'm going to say late 2020.
Okay.
If not early 2021. But the previous owners had basically the building vacant and had begun renovations without a building permit.
Thank you.
Any other questions from our panel members? All right, I just have one. It has to do with your front yard projection. So
Yes.
you have an existing roof. So the concrete step's been there forever.
Well, the concrete step has been redone in the last year as we were building or renovating the building.
Okay, so the roof, then, so
The
you're
roof would
asking
be
for-
built. Sorry, the roof would be built post minor variance approval.
there is a roof now, though, right? A small one?
There, it was there. It's been removed because it's on the facade, yes.
All right, okay. I just wanted to see whether or not we were going from like a 0.2 to a 0 or what we were proposing here, but that's okay. That's fine. It's just a very minor point on that. And the rest are pretty much regularizing, save and except for C, variance. Okay. All right. If there's no other questions from members, then I'm going to do a call out to anyone in the audience or anyone online. If you'd like to speak to the committee about this application, now's your chance. No one online coming forward? Okay. With that, then, I think I'm going to give you then, Madame Lalancette, if you'd like just to conclude a few remarks if you want, and then we can go to a vote.
No, I don't have any further comments other than I appreciate your time today for my long presentation. I should have shortened it.
It was fine the way it was, honestly. All right, then, Member Blatherwick, do you have a question?
I just have a comment, Madam Chair, regarding the Standard Committee of Adjustment condition. I think it'd be appropriate for us to say, subject to the location and size of the proposed complying with the plans filed with the Committee of Adjustment on September 16th, 2025 for the life of the building.
All right. Madame Lalancette, do you understand what Member Blatherwick is proposing?
I'm
He's
not
saying, so we typically have a condition that is, it's tied to the plans, the site plans. And Member Blatherwick is proposing that we also tie it to the life of the building. Any objections?
No, I don't foresee any objection.
All right, sorry. Okay. Mr. Geltard?
Just a question on that, Madam Chair. Would that impact the applicant's ability to change, per se, landscaping or the location of bike parking and everything in the future? Or is it only related to the location of the building?
I believe it's building specific.
Building specific, then planning has no concerns.
Through you, Madam Chair, the decision would be tied to the plans filed as they relate to the variances being sought and to the life of the building.
Good clarification. Thank you for that. All right. I think we can vote. I think we're there. So all those in favor? All right. For the record, the application is unanimously granted. Thank you very much and good luck with your project. Okay. All right, we're going to go back to number 4 then. Mr. Jaudet, who's online, any better luck?
Yes,
Mr.
hello.
Jade, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We're hearing, we can see you now.
Oh, perfect.
Try again, please.
Perfect. Hi. Can you hear me?
All right, for whatever reason, we're still not hearing you that well. Do we know why?
Let me try to turn off my headsets.
Just a minute, a slight technical, or is there something at your end you can do?
Hello.
Yes, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Oh, better, much better. Thank you so much. All
Perfect,
right,
thank
so we're not going to request a presentation from you.
Okay.
But I am going to open it up to committee members if there's any questions. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Jade on application number 4 for 1077 Richard? No, I'm not seeing any questions. This application had originally been on the unopposed list, but we do have a speaker with us today. So we are going to call down Mrs. Burgess, if you would like to come forward.
Thank you. I just have a question. I live 2 properties down from 1077 Richard. And while I appreciate that the property is going to be redeveloped, and I appreciate the emphasis on densification in the neighborhood and the municipality, I'm just curious, when you say you want the property to be severed and 2 long semis built, is your intention to have these exist as single dwelling units, as upper and lower level units, or as 3 units on each side, property with a raised foundation? That's my first question. So 2 semis with 3 units on each side. And do you foresee parking for these units, given that 1077 is one property in from a major intersection, where if there is no parking provided, there could be an issue with multiple cars on the street if there are in fact 6 units on this lot. That's my main concern. I don't really have any concerns about developing it in 2 semis, although it would be the first development on our section of Richard Avenue. But it's not out of character with what's in the neighborhood. So if you could answer that, those are the only questions I have specifically for you.
Mr. Jade?
Yes, absolutely. All right, so just so two answers.
Mhm.
In regards to the semi-detached, it's a semi-detached long semi, meaning it's front to back semis, 2 sets of that. If you want an example of how it would look like or similar to, we built a similar one at on Clover Street, 2492 and 2490 and 2488 Clover. So basically what we do is we build a semi-detached, where a typical family would occupy the semi, and then the family in the future, if they want, they can add an SDU in the basement. In our experience, we haven't done that, but if they choose to, they can. In regards to the driveway, so right now we're just dividing the property. We're just asking for, there's actually no minor variances required at all for this particular application. There is potential to add a driveway in the middle, similar to what we did on Clover Street, where we'd have a driveway and then parking in the back. So that would alleviate any parking on the street. So we do understand that, you know, when people build semi-detaches, there is a more of a demand for parking. And typically what we request or what we want, it doesn't require any minor variances, but what we want is 1 parking spot per semi, and we can easily achieve that with putting parking in the back. So that's what we've done in the past, and that's what we would potentially propose here on this application.
Thank you, Mr. Jade, and also thank you for raising the point. This is a consent application. It's not, there's no minor variances before us, so there's no development actually being proposed. But I just want to reiterate to be sure that we understand. So Right now, the plan, though, going forward, notwithstanding the fact that it's a consent, is for 4 units on 2 lots, so 2 units per lot, with the ability for future owners to maybe create another unit. So potentially 8, then that would be 8 units overall, 4 per lot. Is that correct?
That is correct. So just to go back to Clover Street, one of the owners did put a 1-bedroom unit in the basement as a secondary dwelling unit. The rest decided not to. So it really depends on the family. The families that are currently occupy or will occupy the semi-detached have the option of adding the secondary dwelling unit. But it doesn't affect whether a family is still going to be occupying the building. At the maximum that would be added as a secondary dwelling unit is a 1-bedroom in the basement, if SDU is proposed.
Is there a separate entrance to the basement being designed?
No, not at the moment, no.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, does anyone from the panel have any questions for Mrs. Burgess? Nope. All right, thank you for your time today. Anyone else, either from the audience or online, like to speak to the committee about this application for consent at 1077 Richard? No one? All right. Okay, then members of the panel, I think we can go to a vote. All those in favor? All right, so for the record, the application is unanimously granted. Thank you for your time today. All right,
Thank you.
okay,
Thank you for
so
your time and
moving on.
consideration.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so moving on, we're going to number 5 for 243 Belford, looking for Saunders. Thank you. Hello, your name for the record, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Evan Saunders from Foten Planning and Design, municipal address 420 O'Connor Street.
All right, so I think we're looking for a presentation on this one, if I remember correctly. Yes, we are looking for a presentation, Mr. Saunders. Floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you. Just to preface, I have quite a bit of information to present today, so I'll try and be brief in my comments, but I do think some of the site context is rather important to sort of our evaluation that went into this related specifically to the streetscape character. So again, I'll try and be brief, but I may go over 5 minutes. Next slide, please. So just for some high-level context, the site is located in the Hampton-Iona Community Group neighborhood within the Westboro community. It's bound to the north by Byron Avenue, to the west by Churchill Avenue, and then to the east by Kirkwood and Carling further south. Next slide. This graphic provides a closer up context of Belford Crescent and the surrounding area. So one of the key elements I'll highlight is an existing high voltage hydro corridor, which runs just adjacent to the site. Our site as identified directly abuts it. And as I'll go into further detail later, this in effect breaks up the parcel fabric along Belford, which is relatively limited in terms of the number of properties. So again, I'll come back to this later on. Next slide. These photos were taken of the site as is right now with the existing single detached dwelling on the property, which is intended to be demolished. And speaking with the owner, it's been vacant for quite some time and the repairs were quite extensive in order to make it livable. So the decision was made to demolish and rebuild. As you can see, the site is quite forested. Through this proposal, we intend to retain as many trees as possible, but obviously through redevelopment scenarios, it's not possible to keep all of them. But through our TIR, you can note that there are several proposals to remove trees, but again, many of which are being retained. As you can see, the image on the right was taken along Belford from the other side of the hydro corridor. This image is really helpful because it depicts sort of the spatial separation that's provided by the hydro corridor between the closest property on the other side to ours, and that heavily forested area that more or less represents our property line shared with Hydro One. So this is a really important contextual element, I think, to evaluating our site in the context of the street. Next slide. I'll skip over the policy framework and I can obviously go into more detail later on, but it's relatively straightforward for this site. So if we want to skip to the next slide. The proposed development on the site is the reestablishment of a single detached dwelling on the site. It's a two-story building. And I'll make note of one item on the site plan on the right. It's hard to see, but you might be able to see it on your copy, or if you looked at if you had a chance to take a look at the site plan. But there are hydro poles and hydro wires that run along the eastern property line, separate from the hydro corridor itself. The building design was largely influenced by the location of the garage, because the upper portions of the building are stepped to the west or towards the hydro corridor side. So this played a part in how the building is oriented towards the street and how it fits onto the lot. Next slide. Just for some clarity, a revised site plan was provided in the last few days related to this proposal. This was due to a zoning compliance issue that staff provided to us, thankfully, before the hearing. There was an issue with the relationship between the front door and the garage, and rather than adjourning and adding a variance, we decided to make this technical amendment to the plan. As you can see, the front door was shifted towards the front lot line. This removes the non-compliance, and as a result, we saw it as a relatively minor change and not significantly affecting the nature or extent of the variances sought. Next slide. You can go to the next slide as well. So there are three variances being sought through this application. The first being the location of the driveway. As I mentioned, the location of the garage on the site was largely driven by the setbacks required from the hydro on the right-hand side of the lot. And additionally, as you can see at the front of the lot, there's an existing fire hydrant as well as some existing trees on the front. The driveway has been canted or kinked towards the road and angled in a manner where it slightly protrudes in front of the front face of the building, indicated by that orange wedge. This minor encroachment, again, is sitting in front of the building, whereas the zoning bylaw doesn't allow for that. This minor encroachment, again, generally maintains the intent of the zoning, as the driveway largely sits in front of the garage where it's intended to. It's just a small portion that doesn't. Next slide. The second variance relates to the driveway width. The driveway at its widest is 3.35 meters, so 35 centimeters above the 3-meter maximum of the zoning bylaw. This is to ensure adequate maneuverability of vehicles accessing the driveway. As I mentioned, the driveway is angled and kinked towards the road.
Keep going, please.
Thank you. Is kinked towards the road, not directly aligned with the garage. So in order to ensure adequate maneuverability once getting onto the lot, this slight expansion of the driveway is proposed. It's worth noting that the expansion of this driveway occurs deeper onto the lot, so approximately 2.5 to 3 meters in, not including the driveway that's located in the right-of-way. And given the retention of the trees that was allowed for due to the kink in the driveway, the trees help to buffer this expansion from the street. So the presenting portion of the driveway is largely zoning compliant. Next slide. And lastly, the front-facing garage. So per the streetscape character analysis, this was deemed to be a non-permitted feature, but it is being proposed through our application. As I mentioned, there was quite an evaluation done on this site, given the unique context of Belford Crescent and sort of the applicability of the SCA in this case. There were three main factors that drew us towards this conclusion. Obviously, the first being the unique character of Belford. The second being the nature of the surrounding community, characteristic elements of the existing dwellings, as well as some newer buildings that are coming in now, just on the immediately surrounding blocks. And lastly, given the retention of trees in the front, this also helps to screen this right side of the building from the street more than if those trees weren't retained. And alongside the thoughtful design of the garage door, as you saw in that rendering, is dark in order to blend in with the lower portions of the dark stone of the building, helping to ensure the front gable and front door are the primary element addressing the street. Next slide. So this graphic was prepared to help to illustrate our thinking behind the unique nature of Belford Crescent. So as I mentioned, the hydro corridor bisects Belford in two separate locations. And due to this, it creates a break in the streetscape, and due to the visual barrier also provided by the vegetation along our property line, the relationship between our building and the building on the other side of the hydro corridor, as well as buildings on the other side of the crescent, is minimal as opposed to what the SEA generally intends. It generally intends to evaluate properties all in a line or in relative visual proximity to one another. And secondly, it's hard to see in this graphic, but the two lots at the, I'll call it the apex of the crescent, both of them face north and south. And then on the west-hand side, those lots actually front onto Tweedsmuir. So there's no active streetscape elements fronting on that portion of Belford. And again, creating kind of a separation. And as I note in this graphic, this sort of creates 4 segments of relative streetscapes along Belford. And that kind of drove our analysis of what is relating to the subject property as it, pertains to the front-facing driveway or front-facing garage, sorry. Next slide. So I've provided just some examples of along Belford, the context, just for your information. So in the first box on the top left, this is the property directly across the street from ours at 242 Belford, if I'm not mistaken. This obviously depicts a front-facing garage and a quite wide driveway, I'll say, but this obviously relates directly to our site. And then at the top right, number 2 there, this is an interesting case where a property which is actually fronting onto Tweedsmuir has a rear-facing garage which exits onto Belford. And so while there's a garage and driveway which exits onto Belford, since the property doesn't front onto Belford, it's not considered in the streetscape character analysis. So again, this contributes to that unique character that the streetscape character analysis doesn't always consider. Again, it's a valuable tool, but it's a tool when looking at this, and it doesn't consider all circumstances. The bottom 2 images, again, are 2 other properties along Belford, number 3 being on the other side of the hydro corridor. As you can see, there's a wide driveway and wide garage, which are very prominent in the streetscape, whereas in our case, we're retaining trees and building the garage more seamlessly into the facade of the building to ensure that it's not a prominent element like that. Next slide. So again, these are some additional contextual images from the surrounding area. I'll point to the top left, number 1. This is again another interesting case where a garage, a detached garage, is fronting with the driveway onto Belford, but the property itself fronts onto Bevan. So again, was not considered in the streetscape character analysis, but given the setback of the garage and the property, as you can see to the left, which is fronting on Belford, it sits at that range where a garage would be and contributes to what's seen on the streetscape when driving around. The other images are from along Bevan, just off of Belford, and the one I'll point you to is number 4 on the bottom right. These relatively new semi-detached dwellings both have front-facing garages, and these are at the terminus of Belford when driving down it from our subject property. And in considering the streetscape character, these actually play probably a more significant role in the streetscape appeal than some of the other properties to the north of Belford. So I'll stop there, just cognizant of time, but I'm happy to go through any of the 4 tests or clarify any of the details I went over today.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Saunders. Good presentation. I'm going to open it up. Can I have the gallery view? Thank you. Open it up to questions. Yes, Member Lecuyer, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. If you could put the picture back up of like the rendering, I guess it might be called. It looks like it's a 1-car garage. Just wanted to confirm because I seem to recall, and again, it's my memory. I think I recall the dimensions being 14 by 20-ish or thereabouts. I just wanted to confirm, from my recollection of living in a townhome, I felt like it was like 9 feet. So 14 by 20 seems like a kind of a 1.5 in my head. I am not an expert by any means. The picture shows me more of a 1. Can you kind of clarify? Because I'm just curious, as you're asking for the driveway widening and all the other things, that if the garage was the typical kind of a smaller one, would these variances be required? Just curiosity.
Sure. Through you, Chair. The intention is just for 1 car. Speaking with the owner, storage is there's an opportunity for storage in the garage. And for context, when we received the note about the zoning compliance related to the garage door and front door. We basically we presented an option to our client to either bring the front door forward or the garage door back, and both options were viable as they would be fine with shrinking the garage back. It was easier to bring sort of that front vestibule further forward. So to answer your question, it's just intended for one with additional space for storage.
Can I just ask you a clarifying question? So typically a single car garage is 10 by 20 and a double car is 18 or 20 by 20. So can you tell us what the dimensions of the garage are?
I can pull them up on the site plan now, if bear with me. So in just going through the cover letter, the garage as proposed right now is approximately 14 by 20. But given the narrow entrance, there's no real opportunity to try and squeeze anything on either side because the garage door is it's centrally located within that the footprint of the garage. So even if it can't, as designed, it can't possibly fit more than one modern car, I'd say.
No, that's fine. I think if I understood the member, like his question though, it was more to do with the relationship to the other variances. So if you'd left it at a 10 by 20, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you'd left it at a 10 by 20, would you still be looking for some of those other variances that are like for the driveway width and I think you're partially in front of the building. So would that, like, if you reduced it to 10 by 20, could you avoid some of the variances that you're asking for today? I think was the nature of the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So in short, no, partially because the other variances are much more related to the access. And one of the key factors that I noted was the fire hydrant at the front. We're dealing with planning our city staff now to determine the exact separation that's needed to be provided. And this provides us with I would say adequate breathing room in order to angle the driveway enough to actually be able to access it, because once in the right-of-way portion of the driveway may need to be kinked even further. And so the car would be coming in on, it's up to a 70-degree angle, which would require that additional widening of the driveway in order to actually access the garage safely and easily, as the owners would just like it to be easier to access rather than meeting the minimum, but obviously needing to potentially back in and out multiple times to make it in.
All right, thank you. Any follow-on questions? Okay. Anyone else? Sorry, can I have the gallery view?
I have a
Sorry. Okay, thank you. Mr. Ecklican, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the very thorough presentation. And I really appreciated the, specifically, I guess my focus is on the uniqueness you mentioned of the street and the streetscape character sort of related to garages, the analysis that you've done. And my question is to planning staff, Ms. Horn, if I'm not mistaken, the analysis was done for 15 properties, and I believe 21 is the required. How do you deal with less than 21? That's my first question.
Thank you, Member Kicklican. So essentially, the SCA takes into account, situations where there are fewer lots on the street. And so I believe the minimum, like the absolute minimum, is 11. And so in this case, there were 15 that could be included.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, Madam Chair, if I may, so 11 of the 15, if I'm reading correctly, didn't have front-facing garages in the analysis. So the majority didn't. I don't know what to make of that, but I understand the uniqueness of the street. So anyway, that's just my thought on that. Is the majority didn't? How is that treated? Is it a proportion? Is there sort of a minimum, that percentage?
Thank you for your question. So essentially, because it's more than more than half do not, then the dominant character is that front-facing garages are not the dominant character.
Therefore, the concern by planning staff.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Madam Chair, he couldn't hear you. Your microphone was not on.
Can't hear anything.
Hi. Oh, okay, it's got to be that one. Whatever's going on. Member Blatherwick, go ahead, please.
Hi. Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we put the schematic up that shows the front yard and the front walkway, please? I believe it's on page 11 of the FOTEN report. Okay, thank you. So looking at the, nope. One back from, yep, that'll do. Thank you. So looking at the revised submission, Mr. Saunders, I'm looking at the driveway. I'm looking at the walkway. Are you intending, or is your client intending on putting in a vertical measure between the edge of the walkway and the edge of the driveway to prevent front yard parking onto that walkway?
Through you. Oh. Right.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Sanders.
Oh, sorry, through you, Chair. No, to answer your question, there's no intention to put vertical barriers, just as in terms of the practicality of building it. It's not their intention, but it's, as I mentioned, it's not their intention to park on this portion. As I mentioned, given the angle of the approach into the driveway, this walkway doesn't provide any additional maneuverability, and parking two cars on this would be, again, rather tight in order to even allow for an additional parked car with access from the garage. This would be relatively impractical, and it's not the intention of the owner. And if I'm not mistaken, the walkway has been, the size of the walkway, again, is less than, if I'm not mistaken, less than the zoning bylaw maximum. This is just the practical width that makes sense for them, and which was provided by the builder.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Saunders. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, any other questions from panel members? All right, I do have a question. And I think the photos that we got from Mr. Saunders was actually very helpful in really conveying the extent to which there's vegetation on that property. And so I went back to see what forestry's comments were on that, and I didn't see any forestry comments. So do we have somebody from Forestry Services that may? Good afternoon, Ms. Young.
Good afternoon. Thank you for catching that.
So, Ms. Young, could you please just give us, from your perspective, comments that we should hear on what's happening with the TIR and a few other things?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I don't have any major concerns with the variances requested. The driveway and the width don't seem to have any impact on existing trees, especially with the location of that fire hydrant in front of some of the city trees. The design overall would require removal of at least 3 large trees and replacement with 7. And essentially, it's just a recommendation that forestry prefers that as many large growing species can be used to replace the trees, given what would be removed here. There are some very significant trees that are impacted. And we would like to see some of the trees to be replanted in the right of way so that that will help to create that or recreate that screening that's in front right now. And then just the last point, it really has only to do with the building permit. It's nothing to do with the variance here. It's just the current design looks like it could impact a very, very large tree in the rear yard, which is a significant one and would be excellent to try to work around if possible. It is within the zoned building footprint, so it may not be possible, but I've reached out to the applicant to just say if there's any way to look at designing around that, it would be very much appreciated. It's a good tree to have on the site and affects the neighborhood as a whole. And that can all be dealt with through the building permit process. So there's time to deal with that. I think those were all of my comments. Do you have any other specific questions about the trees?
Well, no, I guess I'd have a follow-on question though, because my concern, of course, is, will perhaps any redesign coming out of discussions, and I'm assuming then that Mr. Saunders and yourselves will be having maybe an additional discussion about how to retrain that tree in particular that you were just mentioning. And I guess what I'd like to know is, is it conceivable that we may need more variances as a result of any redesign that may occur? And then, of course, the next question the committee has to ask itself then is considering what we have before us, then premature or not. So I'm going to look to Mr. Saunders to provide us with some insight.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So I'd like to thank Ms. Young for her comments. She reached out previously before the hearing to discuss this matter with myself, our client, and the retained arborist on file. So the tree in question is in the rear yard, just to sort of behind the rear right corner of the building. This is the tree in question. And when presenting this issue to our client, the arborist and I, we came up with sort of 3 solutions to this. The first being, obviously the least desirable for the sake of the tree, is the removal of the tree due to the proximity of the building. The second being sort of an on-site evaluation, the protection as possible, and trying to protect it as much as possible while still retaining the built form as proposed. And then lastly, a minor redesign to the rear of the building, potentially with a portion of the building cantilevering where the ground floor portion is pushed back. But again, this is a much more costly exercise as it would force a redesign. But again, the options were presented, and it'll be more of a discussion once it comes down to building permit. I can't imagine our client would look to redesign the building in a manner that would be zoning non-compliant, requiring further variances. So again, any changes that would happen, I think, would be contained to sort of that rear portion of the building and wouldn't come into effect any of the setbacks or other zoning provisions.
All right, thank you for that. I think what I heard was that every effort will be made not to move to another minor variance, which would be very helpful to the committee. Okay, any questions? And Ms. Young, thank you so much for your input today. We really appreciated your comments. They're helpful, as always. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Ms. Horn, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to highlight that upon further discussion after the report was submitted, we did speak with the applicant and wanted to clarify that we don't have concerns regarding the driveway variances. And we appreciate their flexibility and innovation when dealing with the fire hydrant matter as well. And we just wanted to clarify that the some concerns that remain are solely related to the results of the SCA.
All right, thank you, Ms. Horn. Okay, any questions for Ms. Horn on that from the panel members, though? Nope. All right. I think we can go to the public portion of the hearing at this point. Let me just have a look and see, do we have anyone who would speak to this? Let's see. Nope, don't have any members of the public, so I'll just do a general call out. Is there anyone in the audience or at home who would like to speak to this application, either for or against? Mr. Casagrande, I can't imagine. You've got to be speaking for. Can I just, before I go to you, can I just see if there's anybody else out there? I just want to confirm. All right, no, we don't. Okay, then go ahead, Mr. Casagrande.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Just two things I wanted to raise, just to reemphasize, I think what Evan was presenting relative to the streetscape character analysis. I think what I'd like the committee to understand, if they don't already, is that this is a bit of a blunt tool, right? It's not been designed for all of these unique situations. And in my experience, almost without exception, I've seen the city planning department not support variances or not express concerns, if you will, with variances to the SCA. And I think there are situations like this where I hope the case has been made that the typical streetscape that you might walk down with 11 houses on either side has a natural rhythm and a character. And the point we're trying to make in this case is the horseshoe nature of this cul-de-sac or this road, the hydro corridor, the rear-facing garages on a portion of it, and some of the existing homes that have street-facing garages that weren't eligible for inclusion in the normal analysis, all together, I think lend itself to us collectively looking at the overall intent of that. And that's the argument we're trying to make, that in this case, the intent is not realistically going to be fulfilled in any situation. And we think that there's consideration and reasonableness to our application, given also the design and the site landscaping and so on. So I just wanted to make sure we emphasize that point. And then the last thing is, because of this fire hydrant consideration, we'd like to know if the committee, or hope the committee, will be comfortable with modifying their standard wording in terms of tying plans filed to the variance to something that would allow for the driveway to shift, I guess, away from the hydrant to the extent required through building permit. Because we're not entirely clear if additional separation is required. The city hasn't been able to document whether that's a requirement or a desire. And through that, we'll work with them, obviously, to make sure that we meet whatever the requirements ultimately are. But my fear is that if this driveway simply can't shift, to the, I guess that would be to the east, then we'll be back at the committee, and I don't want to have that happen. So we're not talking about dramatic changes to this plan, but subtle ones. And so whatever the committee might figure they can offer in that regard would be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Casagrande. In fact, I would say that just based on the discussion we just had with forestry and the potential that through the whole building permit process, we might be looking at rear yard changes, that it would be prudent not to tie it to plans. So for a number of reasons. But thanks for raising that, and we can decide that when we make a decision. Okay. Is there anyone else? If there's no one else who wants to come forward, then I think the floor. Sorry.
I have one question, Madam
Sorry,
Chair.
go ahead, Mr. Blatherwick.
And perhaps Ms. Horn can answer this. How far is the proposed driveway from the fire plug in distance?
I think the applicant is best poised to answer that.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. If I'm not mistaken, as currently designed, it's approximately 0.79 meters from the driveway is the measurement I have on mine.
That's horizontal distance from the edge of the pavement to the fire plug.
Correct. Yes.
You're aware of the traffic and parking bylaw and the and the 3-meter distance separation required in the traffic and parking bylaw from a fire plug.
Through you, Chair. This was brought forward by infrastructure staff at the city through their report. This was raised, but in speaking with staff there, we haven't been able to find the exact note. We found the water bylaw, which requires a 0.5 meter separation around and a 3-meter corridor extending to the right of way. The horizontal separation actually or it won't be as useful now, but there are other areas in the other properties in the surrounding area with fire hydrants located in a similar manner to what we're proposing. Again, this is an issue that our client's builder is dealing with the city, and as my colleague Brian had noted, this is where sort of that flexibility around how the driveway interacts with the street will be important in order to ensure that distance, whether required or whatever maximum distance we can provide, is being provided.
That really doesn't answer. Thanks very much, but that really doesn't answer my question. There's a 3-meter setback requirement if you park on the street. You can't park within 3 meters of a fire hydrant or you will get a ticket or towed, period. So why are you building your driveway closer than 3 meters to a fire hydrant?
Through you, Chair. Sorry, just for clarification, are you referring to the parking along the street in proximity?
Yeah, there's a 3-meter setback on the street. So why would that setback requirement not be required on for a driveway?
I think Ms. O'Connell,
I'm just curious.
her hand up, and we now see maybe she's got some insight for us. Go ahead, Ms. O'Connell.
Staff have noted in their comments that that is a requirement, the 3-meter setback to the fire hydrant, but there's a couple options to deal with that. It's a requirement in our water design guidelines, but the applicant can, as I mentioned, potentially redesign the driveway. We have to figure that out still. Or the other option is there's an option to relocate the fire hydrant as well. That's possible, and that's been done in other properties. So we just haven't figured out the conclusion of that discussion.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell. Any further questions, Member Blatherwick?
No, Madam Chair, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So what I'm hearing though is that this application still has a lot of uncertainty around a number of the elements. So all of that, and I know you've heard this before, Mr. Casagrande. We're worried about the prematurity of things like this, but I'm going to let the building, and I'm hoping the other members will feel the same way. We'll let the building permit process do what it needs to do. We'll give you the flexibility on not tying it to plans. But if you're back here, then, we're gonna make note of it. Make sure that you know that we warned you that we didn't want to see it back. So yes, go ahead, Mr. Casagrande.
I understood, Madam Chair, and you'll certainly get, an apology from me if we find ourselves there. But I think our point is that the elements in question offer a lot of flexibility with different solutions. And the timing of this application is important to our client. So they're going to figure out solutions that don't cause us to come back. We've flagged for them, hey, are you sure you don't want to adjourn this? Because we might be able to add variances later. And they really want to solve it through the building permit process.
All right, then I am going to wish you all the best in getting through that process and not having to come back to us. All right. Did I give you a chance, Mr. Saunders, to recap?
No, not yet, Chair. Thank you. Through you, as I mentioned, this application has 3 sort of key elements to it. Obviously, the location of the driveway width, and the front-facing garage. The driveway elements were largely derived from some of the existing site constraints, being the fire hydrant, as well as the hydro wires on to the east of the building. And given that these variances reflect us providing, I guess, planning workarounds in order to deal with these constraints. Some of the other issues brought forward related to the separation from the fire hydrant, as my colleague had mentioned, this represents a problem that our client and our builder, and in coordination with the city, can be solved through building solutions and other infrastructure solutions, whether moving the hydrant, shifting the angle of the driveway, etc. And then as it relates to the streetscape character analysis, as we've mentioned quite a few times, Belford Crescent represents a very unique experience given some of the contributing factors such as the hydro corridor, the oblique frontages at the crest of the crescent, et cetera. And for this reason, we believe that the evaluation provided by the streetscape character analysis in this setting is not as applicable as it would be in other scenarios where streets are feature a very consistent frontage of buildings without gaps, without interruptions. And as I mentioned in my cover letter, we believe this application meets the 4 tests provided by the Planning Act and that it's minor, desirable, and meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Saunders. I think I'm ready to make a vote. Is everyone else ready to vote? Okay, I think that's what I'm seeing.
Madam
With-
Chair, sorry to interrupt. When you do vote, could you just confirm for committee staff if you are tying any of the variances to plans or if all the variances will not be tied to plans?
All right, thank you. That's actually, that's a very distinct question in the sense that, are there any of these variances? So if I look at A, for example, that doesn't permit it, nothing I think is going to change no matter what you do with the driveway or the rear. So I think A can be tied to plans, not B. And I don't think C needs to be tied to plans either. So let's just leave it flexible to B at this point. And does that work then? I guess, so Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do need to understand if we only tie B, or sorry, if we tie A and C to plans but not B, what happens if they're playing with the rear of the building and now, because in my mind, it means nothing should be tied to plans, but I'd like you to provide us some advice, please.
So we can tie the requested variances to plans as they relate to the variances, and that would mean any changes to the rear of the building could be made. They're not tied to those plans. So you would just want to tie variance A to the plans and not variance B and C.
I guess we could do that. All right, let's do that because A, I don't think matters in any way, but then the rest would be not tied to plans. Sorry, go ahead, Member Leckie.
Does this one work now? I traded. So if we don't tie to plans, but it's tied to the variance, if there's shifting with the driveway width, it'll go into the walkway potentially, therefore it's staying as is?
So I guess what I heard is the fire hydrant's a bit of a problem. I think Member Blatherwick raised a couple of points, so there's further discussion that needs to happen with that. It could be that at the end of the day, the driveway width may actually be reduced quite possibly. So,
Oh,
sorry,
Ms. Horn.
Ms. Horn, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Tremblay. I think in this case, it's probably most prudent to not tie any of the 3 variances to plans, just to ensure that there are no problems at building permit. Member Lecurier brought up a good point about the driveway widths. And again, that's just, I think, to provide the flexibility in changing those elements at the front of the site. It would be best if they weren't tied to plans.
All right, I'm okay with that. Is everyone on the panel okay with it? Anybody feel differently? Now's your chance. Okay, looks like we're not tying to plans at all. None of the variances. All right, so with that, let's go to a vote then. All those in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Your application is granted, subject to the change in administrative condition that we talked about. Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
All right. With that, then, it takes us to the last, it's not really an application, I guess it's request for change in conditions. So we're looking for Ms. Libman, please.
Hello.
Hello. Yep, can I, the gallery view, please? I can see you now. That's wonderful. Good afternoon. All right, so Ms. Libnum, you're going to have to walk us through what was approved and what you are proposing now, please.
Okay. So in brief, we're changing one condition or seeking the committee's approval to change one condition. And that is actually, it's not even really a change so much as to split it up. So condition 1 on the original decision, maybe I'll just back up a bit and say that what we're seeking to do is to create 4 separate parcels of land. In the original decision, those 4 parcels were approved, but they were one decision altogether. And so all of the conditions would have needed to be approved all at one time. The owners of the property want to develop it in phases. It currently is developed with rental housing, and so they don't want to have to demolish all of their existing rental housing at one time to permit them to build one new rental housing building. So we have filed the change of condition application to separate the conditions out for each phase of development. The main condition that is changed through that breakout is condition number 1 that has to do with demolition. So it will be still included on each decision. But for phase 1, we'd only be required to demolish the buildings that cross over the property line for the creation of Lot 1, which are accessory buildings at 282 and 284 Somerset Street. The next phase would include the demolition of the existing rental dwellings at 280, 282, and 284 Somerset Street. And then the last phase would include the demolition of the existing rental building on 2 buildings on Sweetland Avenue. So we've broken out all of the conditions to allow certificates of official to be issued on a phased basis. So the corner site triangle, for example, isn't required for phase 1. It's required at the phase 2 stage. So that condition is included in that set. So it would be up to the committee if they wanted to issue separate decisions for the 3 phases, or if they just wanted to break down the clearance of conditions by phase. What we're trying to achieve, just to be clear and to make sure that we're able to do it at the end of the day, is that we would like to be able to get certificates of official in a phased manner so that we can create Lot 1, then lots 2 and 3, and then Lot 4.
All right, thank you, Ms. Libman. It was actually very helpful for you to spell out what it is that's different from the different phases with regards to the conditions. All right, I'm going to just open it up to questions from, yes, Member Lucia, go ahead, please.
Just to clarify, so as I understood your comments and rationale delivered verbally just now, the phases are they intended to reduce kind of like a renoviction in that these are occupied units right now? I guess I know this was May.
That's right.
I can't remember if they're currently vacant or not.
No, they're not. They're not vacant. So we want to be able to keep them occupied.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so my understanding is also that your request is to have this considered a not minor change
Yes.
to reset the clock. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, do you know of any definition, Ms. Libman, of minor versus not minor under, so just to give us some comfort?
No, Madam Chair, there is not a definition in the Planning Act.
All right, so I guess that means we can pretty much determine what we want to determine then under that. All right, I'm just going to go to staff for a minute. Was it Ms. Horn?
I guess I'll just say that the reason that we're seeking that is, again, just to allow those, allow construction to proceed over the course of those 2 years. 2 years isn't really a long time to build 5 buildings.
All right, so Mr. Gildart, I just want you to weigh in on if this, you've had a chance to obviously to speak with Ms. Libman. Can you just tell us what your position on this would be?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So staff are the opinion that the change of conditions is considered minor in nature, as it doesn't change the nature or intent of the original decision of the Committee of Adjustment. That is, we're not changing anything regarding the lot access, the lot configuration, or the types of uses that are being proposed today. There's no real change or impacts to the 4 tests that were considered, and the change does not result in any adverse impacts to servicing, traffic, or environmental components.
Okay, I'm just going to ask a question. I'll come back to you. So, and I guess this is maybe where Ms. Libman, you might be helpful, because my understanding of considering minor, not minor, is not the nature of the application, but rather the impact or the nature of the conditions. So is that correct, or are we supposed to use whether or not there's changes to the actual proposal as part of that determination?
Well, I don't think there would be changes to the proposal, or you'd have to be reapplying. I think it's just a question of the impact of if we were to need to satisfy condition 1 as it is now. I think it's a pretty major change to allow us to satisfy that condition over time, as opposed to all at once. And I think if I were to look beyond maybe even the intention of the act and differing between major and minor, I think the on-the-ground impact is the loss of affordable rental housing in this neighborhood that we could stretch out by just, it's a difference of maybe 3 or 4 months, but that's 3 or 4 months that could be important to someone.
All right, thank you. Member Dickey?
Yeah, that was kind of a similar line of questioning I had of, we've seen applications before who've kind of wanted to reset the clock, but they're kind of smaller projects, and kind of, I was curious of major, minor and not minor being the substantiveness of this project. And I would, I guess, add in that it's an extra construction season by bringing it to October. So for me, that's where I kind of sit on that matter.
All right, and I would sort of, my position on this is I don't think it is minor in terms of the changes to the conditions, because of phasing versus non-phasing right off the bat to me is, it deems it not to be minor. Any other thoughts from either Member Haskin, Member Keklikan on this? Go ahead, please.
Maybe a question to staff. If the applicant needs an extension past the 2 years, do they have to come back in for an application?
Through you, Madam Chair, if conditions are not fulfilled, then the application is deemed to be refused and a new application will be required.
I would imagine, though, Ms. Libman, that at that point, with the phasing of these conditions, it's conceivable that you would be through phase 1, maybe even phase 2 at that point, and that you would maybe be coming back just with a portion. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And it's quite possible, to be honest with you, that we won't be able to get everything done within the 2 years. And so we would have to come back at least for phase 3, which is building 4.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Member Keklikan, any thoughts? Oh, Member Keklikan is not here. I just realized that's right. He's got a conflict of interest. My apologies to Member Keklikan for that. Okay. With that, then, we don't need a public portion on this. No, didn't think we did. Okay. Members of the panel, then, all those in favor of this not minor change of conditions, show of hands, please. All right. So we're 3 out of 4. So are you dissenting, Member Blatherwick?
In favor or not in favor? I'm not in favor, Madam Chair.
All right, then you are dissenting. because I
Yeah.
think myself, Member Lecaillette, Member Haskin are in favor of a non-minor change in condition. And with a dissent by Member Blatherwick, would you like to provide us some comments for your dissent, Mr. Blatherwick?
Well, quite frankly, Madam Chair, I don't understand really why this is back before us. Applicants are assumed to do their homework in advance of this kind of situation. I don't like it when we're quite frankly, cleaning up somebody's mess after the fact. We made a decision, and quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, they need to live with it or reapply.
Well, we can ask Ms. Libman if you can tell us why then the phasing wasn't originally considered.
So I wasn't involved in the application when it was originally submitted. And so if I were to speak for my client, I think they thought that they would be receiving separate decisions for each of the 4 applications that they submitted, and only received one decision. And then, it sort of became clear that condition 1 was quite onerous to be met all at once for development of this nature.
All right, thank you. And they didn't consider then just coming back for, in other words, letting or replacing the other decision, the decision we made in May with new decisions for each one of the parcels. Had they thought about that?
We asked the committee to issue, we asked committee staff if they could issue separate decisions for each of the matters, and we were told to apply for a change of condition.
All right, as I can see that. I don't know, I think that if we were going to take a phased approach, that would have been a decision by the committee and not left to staff, I wouldn't think. But if this is, if this is viable for you, that works too for us. It just might have kept the whole process a little cleaner to have just gone back and asked for 3 separate decisions and made a case for each one of those applications. But anyway, we're here, where we are. So I think you have our decision. I think it carries because you've got 3 out of the 4 of us. So hopefully you can get through at least the first 3 phases, and then maybe we'll see you sometime in the future with number 4. So good luck.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. All right, so I think that concludes our agenda for today. So if there's no other business, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.